Next, we would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Kyle Clark. Kyle contributes to 9 News' political reporting and 9 News Storyteller series. His journalism has been recognized with a dozen regional Emmy Awards, several regional Edward R. Murrow Awards, and the National Walter Cronkite Award for Political Journalism.
Kyle joined 9 News in 2007 after working at several television stations in upstate New York. He is a graduate of Ithaca College, which recognized him with the Outstanding Young Alumni Award in 2015. Kyle will be addressing our audience on the topic of political diversity, especially from the perspective of a journalist. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Kyle Clark.
I've got this mic on right up here. If we could switch to this mic that's on my lapel, that would be fantastic. I'll turn this one away so that hopefully it doesn't cause problems. You people are beautiful even in the dark. Good for you. All right, we are going to begin with a stretching exercise that is disguised as a little bit of Q&A. And if you have thoughts, I would invite you to not shout them out at me as we're having our conversation, but hold them for the end because we're going to pass the microphones around and really have a dialogue back and forth instead of me just talking at you guys. But first, show of hands style. Let's talk about surprises. Who was surprised by the result of the United States presidential election? Show of hands if you were surprised. That looks like 98% of the room. I ask you now, who liked that surprise? Roughly 2% of the room. So, most of you in this room, and much of America, was surprised that Donald Trump was elected president. And I'm here today to talk to you about what I think is one of the reasons why. It's because we don't talk to each other anymore. We talk to our people, okay? And we do it all day long. We text our people, we snap our people, we've got Facebook posts, but they're our people. We've sectioned ourselves off. We build these cozy little places to communicate where we can avoid hearing the one thing that we do not want to hear. You're wrong. I disagree with you. I don't think that's right. And you're thinking, I hear that all day long. From my teacher, from my girlfriend, with me it's my wife. I don't want to hear that anymore. But I am going to ask you today to consciously engage with those with whom you disagree. Because disagreement, when we talk about it in political terms, it's dissent. It is a gift. I am telling you, it is a gift. And it is a gift that we are absolutely terrified to unwrap. Our society is just now coming to learn all of the wonderful things that can happen, all of the horizons that can be expanded when we challenge ourselves to meet new people and to accept our classmates and friends who are different in some way and acknowledge that all of us have an inherent right to who we are and what we look like and who we love and what we believe. And are we truly engaging across that spectrum, including political belief? The celebration and the strengthening of diversity is what brought you here today, and it's what brings me here to make a simple ask that is also a complicated one. Embrace diversity of thought, especially when it comes to politics. Talk to people who are wrong about stuff. Talk to people who think you're wrong about stuff. We have to engage with each other, because I'll tell you what's not working. What's not working is the way that things are set up now, where we've walled ourselves off from people who have different political beliefs and different ideologies, thinking, well, I don't need to understand him. I don't need to talk to her, because we'll beat him. She'll never run the show. Well, sometimes there are surprises. So I'm a journalist, and on the face of that, my job is pretty simple. I find out the truth, I tell you the truth, and I don't let anyone stop me. That's what it says on the poster. And you would be amazed how many people on a daily basis want to get between you and the truth, and who want to get between me and the truth. I'm going to tell you a short story, and you're thinking, oh man, this is going to be terrible. But no, there are punches thrown, so it's a good story. So I'm working my first job on air and television news. I'm a senior in college, and I'm working 5 days a week and then taking my 2 days off to go and take classes all day long. And I'm strung out and I'm tired, but I'm living the dream. I'm feeling it. Because I'm gonna find the truth, I'm gonna tell you the truth, and I'm not gonna let anyone stop me, just like the poster says. So the truth of the story that I was working on is that a city councilman was not paying his taxes. He was voting, whoever said, ooh, I like you, you're a TV news viewer, ooh. The councilman wasn't paying his taxes. He was voting other people's taxes up, down, and sideways, but he wasn't paying his own taxes. And I wanted to get the city councilman to talk to me about it, so I asked him for an interview a couple of times, and he declined. Because this crazy thing happens where people think, elected officials think, that they can decline interviews. They can't. They can decline scheduled interviews. So he declined scheduled interviews, and I put him on the calendar for an unscheduled accountability session. And we met in the city council chambers, and I waited for him up front by his seat, where I knew he had to come and sit down to start the day. And as he walks up, I just said, Councilman, I would like to talk to you about your taxes. But of course, I'm in TV news, so I said it like this. Councilman, I'd like to talk to you about your taxes. My camera was right over my shoulder, rolling film the whole time. And I thought he might say, no comment, or talk to my lawyer, or let's schedule a time to sit down. But no, this councilman, he was a brave one, and he said to me, go F yourself. He said the full word. I'm not going to play that game. And I was kind of stunned, and I went back in and I said, Councilman, don't you think your constituents need to know why you're raising their taxes and you're not willing to pay your own? And he said, what part of go F yourself don't you understand? Which struck me as an odd question, because I understood all of go F yourself, but in retrospect, it might not have been a question. So I decided I'm going to go back in one more time, find the truth. Tell you the truth. Don't let anyone stop me. And I don't remember what I asked him, honestly, because all I remember is that the next thing I knew, his hand was flying through the air, and I was bravely doing something like this. Was it a punch? Was it a slap? Was it a swipe? I don't know. I was cowering. I couldn't see. All I know is that the councilman's hand made solid contact with the microphone I was cowering behind, and it just went boom. And I thought, oh baby, that's TV gold. Because there's the truth. I found the truth, and I'm not going to let anybody stop me. So we ran the whole thing that night. We just bleeped out the F word. You're likely thinking, that city councilman, he lost his job. Maybe he got recalled. Or he didn't win re-election because that young budding journalist, Kyle Clark, sought the truth and told everybody. No, he got totally overwhelmingly re-elected because everybody loved the fact that he lit up that little punk reporter kid. That's neither here nor there. But he made me the enemy. He made truth the enemy. And he won. And I tell you that story for two reasons. One, because it's awesome. And two, because you know who would love that story? President Donald Trump would love that story. And that's not about politics. This councilman was a Democrat. Donald Trump is a Republican, used to be a Democrat. But our current president he's an absolute master at making journalists the enemy. And in some cases, making truth the enemy. He did not invent this, okay? And it is not limited to his administration, his party, or this moment in politics. He just practices it with a certain flair. And I'm not saying he doesn't ever have a point. Because there are some bad journalists out there. There are bad journalists just like there are bad doctors and bad plumbers and bad teachers. But What I'm saying to you is that the vast majority of journalists are honest, are hardworking, and try to do the right thing each and every time, just like the vast majority of doctors and plumbers and teachers. But the president is telling his supporters to ignore journalists and to ignore the people who disagree with him politically, the people who want to celebrate diversity of thought, because he knows that there are elements of truth in that he doesn't want his voters to hear or believe. And he benefits when his voters aren't exposed to other ideas and viewpoints. And you know what? People who oppose him politically benefit from the same thing. They just practice it in a different style. So I'm telling you, this is not just a conservative problem. I guarantee you that it is not. Liberals and progressives do this too. College campuses decide which ideas are open to discussion and which ideas will not be discussed. Professors tell students who disagree to get out rather than debate. Conservative views are demeaned as unintellectual or intolerant, and therefore silenced as a result. And I get it, because life is easier when everyone who agrees with you is intelligent, and everyone who disagrees with you is an idiot. But life is not that simple. I got one woo, that's fine. No, that was a pity woo. Do not give me a pity woo. I did not come here for your pity woos. I'm here to tell you that there is always something to be gained by engaging with someone with whom you disagree. You may learn something, they may learn something, you may change your mind, they may change their mind. And even if no one learns anything and no one changes anyone's mind, we are still benefited when we engage. So celebrate disagreement. Unwrap that gift of dissent. I get a stack of dissent in my email every single day as a TV news journalist. And what do? I unwrap it nightly. Let's unwrap some now. I have two recent notes from 9 News viewers, and they did not engage with each other. They engaged with me, but had they engaged directly with each other, they would have found that they have some shared beliefs as well as political differences. One is a conservative, one is a liberal. But they agree that I'm a piece of trash. Larry wrote in, "No one likes Kyle Clark. He is a smug little pipsqueak. His liberal views are untrustworthy and frankly un-American." Ooh. So what did I do with that? Well, I replied to Larry because I love to do that. And then I took Larry's letter and I read it on air that night. People at home got a good laugh. Larry got his voice heard. And if we're being fair, he was right about the smug little pipsqueak thing. So he had an opportunity to be heard. Is there any viewer feedback, any diversity of thought that I will not unwrap on air? To date, no. Tony wrote in this week. "You are biased toward conservative views. You think of yourself as an honest reporter, but you are not. You are a paid whore of the media ownership." Easy, children. Tony continues. Tony's not done. "How does it feel to be thought of as less than a professional? Grow some cojones and report the truth." I don't know if anybody here speaks Spanish, but so what do? We read Tony's email on air. And to answer Tony's question, how does it feel? It feels great, Tony, because I'm not owned by your views about me, nor should you be owned by my views about you. Engaging with people of different political viewpoints is not about agreeing. It is about the engaging. It's about showing that your beliefs are strong enough that they can be challenged and survive. I challenge you to engage with someone today who holds different political views. There is useful camaraderie, and I see it in this room, in banding together for some shared goals. But if that's the extent of your political and social involvement, you're missing out on a lot. You're missing out on that ability to engage, to change minds, or even just to be entertained by somebody like Tony. And perhaps most importantly, you're missing out on the opportunity to strengthen your own views by testing them in the open marketplace against the ideas of others. So what is the value then in holding a belief that is so fragile that it cannot survive a discussion or a challenge? There's a lot of talk about safe spaces these days, and I would encourage you all to be advocates for safe spaces for political disagreements. When you hear someone express an unpopular belief, is your first reaction to shut them down, to shout them down, to allow other people to pile on while you sit there silently? Or is your reaction to create room for that person to state their position fully and without fear of retaliation? But you're saying, well, they're wrong, or they're making people angry, or I think that might even be hateful. Good. Have that discussion. Let it out, and if it's wrong, call it wrong after you have heard it out. And I need your help with this when you're in the majority. And my hope is that all of you find yourselves in the majority at some place in time. Okay? If you were surprised by the result of the presidential election, and you did not like that surprise, you are in an overwhelming majority in this room. So what are you going to do today to create safe space for the 3% of people here who disagree with you to state their views? And this is not about one viewpoint or another viewpoint, because it is all situation specific. It's about, what does your hometown look like? What does your school look like? What does your social studies classroom look like? What does your lunch table look like? There's going to be a changing environment of views there. And I'm asking you, when you find yourself in the majority, are you making room for those who hold the minority view? This election has me discouraged about the great number of people that I talk to who are surprised and outraged by the beliefs held by their neighbors, their literal, actual neighbors. We're not talking about fringe beliefs, okay? This is pretty much a 50-50 election. And by 50-50, I mean 65% of the people couldn't be bothered to vote, and the remaining people went 50-50. But what I'm saying is, we're not talking about fringe beliefs here. There are people who write to me who say that they cannot believe that anyone would have voted for Donald Trump. And there are people who write to me and say that they cannot believe that anyone would have voted for Hillary Clinton. I hear from these people all the time, and I wish that they had been willing to leave their little bubbles, encounter some opposing perspectives, and engage, even if they didn't agree, rather than ending up shocked and outraged about what's happening. You can be in one of these bubbles and never even know it, because they are safe, they are comfortable, they are easy. So I'm going to say this, and I don't say it to offend anyone, but the hand exercise at the beginning of this indicates that this is a bubble. Now, this is a bubble in which you guys are going to do some great work today. And you're going to go forth into schools that don't look like this room, that don't think like this room. And I hope that the people that you engage with at your school will respect your viewpoint when you are in the minority, but I encourage you to practice today appreciating and respecting minority views that you encounter in today's discussions. Just one quick little story. This does not have to be fancy. This does not have to be elaborate. Following the election, on the hit show Next, which the superintendent referenced, and I'll figure out a way to get you guys on the show in just a quick second. We did a little thing after Election Day called Let's Just Talk. And it was simply that. It was just two people talking. Two people who disagreed, who couldn't understand how in the world somebody would have voted the other way in the election, having a conversation. And I came along as a third wheel just so that stuff wouldn't get awkward. And we can always talk about Broncos, So we had a series of these conversations. Mike Kiffin from Del Norte down to San Luis Valley. I don't know if anybody, do we have a school from Southern Colorado here? I know we have folks whose families were originally from the San Luis Valley. Come on, somebody's got to have Southern Colorado roots. Thank you, way in the back. One person, God bless you. But that's a very interesting part of our state, and that some counties are very conservative politically and some of them are very liberal. But Mike Kiffin is a rancher from Del Norte. He came up and he sat down with a single mother from Arvada Sherry Rail, and they had a conversation. These are two people who I can honestly say would never have had a conversation otherwise. And it's because we're busy, and it's because we're geographically separated, and it's because we are self-separated. And then we had a Let's Just Talk hour-long special where we brought together about 50 people from across our state. And we sat down and we had a conversation. And what we found, I don't know that anybody walked out of the room that day with their mind changed about politics. But what I found is that people who walked in assuming the worst about people who disagreed with them found that those people did not actually exist. They were cartoon characters that they had made up in their minds about the opposition. And there in that room, we had a 78-year-old Navy veteran who had served this country but had never voted in his life because he didn't think it mattered. But he was moved to vote for Donald Trump. And he sat across from a 21-year-old lesbian who had voted for the first time in her life because she was just getting involved in politics. She had voted for Hillary Clinton. And he was hopeful and she was terrified. And they had a conversation. And what they learned is that they agreed on a lot. And the first thing that they agreed on is that they respected the genuinely held beliefs of one another, even if they completely disagreed about politics. So I would like to hear from you. I've set aside some time here at the end of this for a little conversation about politics, about journalism, about how politics impacts your life or your family. And I want to hear your feedback about the idea of political diversity and diversity of thought. But I will say this, I will be extremely disappointed if all of you agree with me, because you will have learned. I want to hear especially from people who disagree with what I've said today so that we can engage. Because you are bright young leaders and you are capable of processing thought and ideas coming at you from every direction. So let's engage. I especially, again, want to hear from folks who think that I'm wrong about something, because I'll tell you this, you engaging with me and me engaging with you like that is the only way that I'm going to learn anything. And it's the only way that I'm going to strengthen my arguments or perhaps be persuaded that you're right. So let's have a conversation. We've got microphones that are going to come down the aisles, and everything is fair game. Everything is fair game, from politics to journalism to diversity of thought. Somebody tell me I'm wrong about something, and let's have a conversation. I just ask that you tell me your name and your school so that I know who I'm talking to. Shoot a hand if you want to participate. We've got a young woman over here against the wall who wants to get us started. We've got a gentleman here in the aisle. All right, here's the deal. Once one of your peers starts speaking, I need you to quiet down so we can hear everybody, all right? Not everybody's got a TV guy voice, okay?
Hello? Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry, I can't see where the mic is. Oh, right there, I'm sorry. Yes, hi.
My name's Callie. What I wanted to comment on was, at the beginning of your speech, you commented on how Donald Trump was against, quote-unquote, the truth or against news companies. Whereas, from my understanding, the only person that he isn't actually answering in press conferences and whatnot is MSN, and that's because they have a 4% approval rating, and he just doesn't believe that they're a credible source, and that's why he doesn't comment on them. But he's willing to comment on other newscasters because they're seen as more credible.
That's a very good question. So, who is the president engaging with and who is he not engaging with? So I think you're referring to MSNBC. Last time I watched, he was engaging with MSNBC. Over the course of the campaign, the president alternately banned and then let back in the Washington Post, the Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, CNN, NBC. So it's a shifting target with him. I do not detect that he looks around the room and says, I'll talk to the most popular media outlets and won't talk to the least popular. In fact, his administration has actually opened the door to smaller media outlets to come in and ask questions, including smaller media outlets that are ideological, which doesn't bother me. As long as people know what angle their news is coming from, I don't think there's a problem with that. So I haven't seen what you're seeing in my experience.
I'm less talking about how popular a news company is and more talking about the credibility of it, because the credibility changes depending on what's actually going on, and it ultimately depends on that. The reason why he actually banned those places is because he didn't feel like any of the things that they were accusing him of or anything like that was credible. But he was still open to discussing it, but only with people that he believed were, I hate to use the word suitable, but that.
Mm-hmm. No, and I guess I would just say, in my personal view, I have no more respect for a politician who throws out a journalist he doesn't write than I do for a college professor who throws out a kid who doesn't agree with me.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Olivia. I go to Overland High School.
Hi, Olivia.
Hi. My question is kind of in regards to your points on the diversification of thinking and stuff like that. So I think most of us can agree that we're taught in English classes and social studies classes that when we form an opinion, we should look at the other side too before we decide that opinion. And so I think that a lot of us here have heard, a good amount of information, especially in regards to politics and what we've been talking about, to decide what we feel is right and what we feel is correct. So I'm not by any means against open conversation or anything like that, but my question is, if we've already essentially done something like that and cross-reference our thoughts and stuff like that, wouldn't it just be repetitive to do it in person?
That is a tremendous question. That is a fantastic question. So, what I hear you describing is the very thoughtful process that you went through to form your opinion. And what I'm asking you to consider is having a conversation with somebody else who's just beginning to form theirs. And in the process, you will hear some repetitive stuff. And maybe you'll hear something new. Or maybe you'll hear the same thing from a different perspective, and it'll hold more weight. I'm in no way suggesting that the views that you hold are not deeply thought out or carefully considered. I'm encouraging you to constantly be refreshing that process of inputting new information and outputting your view and testing it in that marketplace against other people. And remembering that even if you do it all the time, it might be the only conversation that other person has with somebody with your viewpoint, and they desperately need to hear from you. Wherever the microphone is who I'll talk to next. Hey! Name of school?
Evan, I'm from Cherry Creek High School.
Howdy.
Yeah, okay, cool. I have two questions. One, which we might disagree on, and I'm curious. You said anything was open game, so this is the first thing that popped into my head. Are you a cat or dog person?
This has gotten me in trouble on TV as much as the politics thing.
Which is why I asked the question.
No, I'm a dog person. I did not say it for your pity woo or your cheek woo or whatever else. I always tell people it's not that I don't like cats, it's that cats don't like me.
Some cats are mean. I
Yeah,
will tell you that, but most cats are sweet balls of fluff.
I mean, if cats were, I don't know, if I'm having a conversation with a person and they look at me disdainfully and walk away and show me their butt, that's what cats do to me. So.
Yes, they do that.
You said you had a second question.
Yes, okay. Well, it's actually my friend's question. But she doesn't want to ask.
Because I'm mean?
No, she's just afraid. Okay. Well, I'll ask it for you.
It's paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing. Wait, what was it again?
How
we supposed to respect other people's opinions if they completely disregard the existence of a type of human?
It sounds to me like that's a fantastic question. We talked about political views, we talked about ideas. One thing that you did not hear me say up here today is that you need to normalize, accept, or subject yourself to hate. And I'm going to offer one caveat, one asterisk to that. As society is coming to understand that hate should not be normalized or accepted or celebrated in the public sphere, there is an attempt to enlarge the definition of hate to include distasteful views. But there's a difference, and you know the difference, and other people in this room know the difference. And I'm asking you to listen to and engage with the distasteful. But there's no time for hate. It's not worth your time. I'm thirstier than I thought I would be. Where's the microphone on this side? It's that side. Howdy. Oh.
Hi, my name is Declan. I'm from Lakewood High School.
Hey, Declan.
And my question specifically is, how can you, as a journalist, and how can mainstream cable outlets like CNN or MSNBC or Fox specifically present the facts of the Trump administration? Because specifically there was a press briefing where Sean Spicer, I know the White House press secretary, went on for minutes about how the inauguration was the largest inauguration in history when there was photo evidence, or Kellyanne Conway going on networks and saying they were alternative facts, or just yesterday her talking about a massacre that never happened to back up Trump's immigration ban. How can the media report these for what they are, which is falsehoods, without coming across as politically biased? Because I know it's so easy in this day and age to just look at what the networks are reporting and say, oh, well, they're biased one way politically or another, or they're biased against Trump and the administration, and that's why they're calling these lies.
So that is a big issue that's faced by the media today, which is how do you address falsehoods, which, if anybody here has a thesaurus, a synonym for falsehood is lie. Sometimes those are called lies too. So how do you identify lies or falsehoods in reporting? You call them what they are without hyperventilating. You just tell people, this is not true. The president has declared the media to be the opposition and the enemy because it's politically useful to him. He's not the first president to do this. I think we all have this tendency, and it's not a tendency just of this generation, it's happened before, but everybody thinks that they're living in a special, unique moment in history, and everything that's happened has never happened before and will never happen again. And I'm sorry, it's just a different flavor. It's just a different flavor, you know? And this flavor, you know, is more orange than the last flavor, you know? But you know what? Listen, it's just a different flavor. So what I'm saying is, the media should not change what it does. If the media changes what it does, then we have a real problem because we have to explain why. And I don't think that it's good enough to say, well, this president is acting differently than Barack Obama, so the media is going to act differently than we did before. No, our job does not change. Find the truth, tell you the truth, don't let anyone get in the way. 1, 2, 3, and then show up the next day and do the same thing again and quit whining about it. The media needs to quit whining, we just need to do our job. All right, we have time for one more question, and it's whoever is holding the mic on this side. You, sir.
Hello, my name is Leo. I'm a cheerleader from Arvada West.
All right.
But you also said it's a disagreement, and I also do have a follow-up question for my assistant principal here. But, oh wait, never mind about the follow-up. Sorry about that. But you said that we should get away from our bubbles and get away from our political views. And I was one of the like 1 or 2% who actually had the view of a Republican as it seemed when we all raised our hands.
Do not mob Leon today, okay? There are others in the room. Do not all mob him, but continue.
But wouldn't you say that having your own bubbles and finding ways to discover each other is a better way of finding more independence and mutual grounds among each other than actually just finding it and just doing whatever as the society says?
Excellent question. So it sounds like what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I'm telling you to get outside your bubble and engage other places, and you're saying, why shouldn't I find my bubble for solidarity and camaraderie and that kind of thing?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand your question. They're not mutually exclusive. And I would not encourage anybody who feels like they are alone in the world in terms of their thinking to first seek out people who tell them that they're wrong. No, don't do that. That would be terrible. Find your people, engage with your people, take strength from your people, and then go forth. Then go forth and engage with others. And that's the second step. So find your bubble, then burst it, and find others. Thank you, everybody.